Sorry, the audio is not functioning. Okay. Good. Good evening. This is the work session for Northfield City Council, August 10th of 2021. This meeting was properly advertised in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231 in the Press of Atlantic City on January 9th of this year. As you may know, in late May, the governor issued Executive Order number 242 related to COVID-19, and which eased restrictions on face coverings in indoor public spaces under certain conditions. The order permits employers to impose stricter requirements regarding face coverings in indoor settings, which in the best interest of our employees and visitors, the city of Northfield has opted to do in May and continue to do to this day. Based on CDC guidelines, the city of Northfield continues to require face coverings and social distancing in our indoor public spaces, and visitors are made aware of this decision with signs at the entrances to the building. Due to continued social distancing requirements, there are limited seats for in-person attendance by members of the public this evening. This meeting is also being presented simultaneously as a remote public meeting live streamed using Zoom conferencing service and in accordance with the governor's executive orders and the Open Public Meetings Act. Zoom meeting participants can dial in by telephone and listen to the proceedings, or they can access the meeting using a web browser and be able to view and listen. Instructions on how members of the public could reserve one of the limited seats, as well as how they can access Zoom, have been made available on the municipal website and were published in the Press of Atlantic City. The full text of the public meeting notice has been posted at the entrance to the municipal building and includes Zoom instructions, information on where to find the meeting agenda and relevant documents, as well as instructions on how members of the public could submit comments in advance of tonight's meeting. For those participating via Zoom, all participants will be muted upon entry to the meeting. Web browser participants will not be able to share their screens or see the camera view of anyone other than the host, which is the city of Northfield. Zoom participants wishing to exercise their right to participate during the public comment portion of the meeting should wait until the specific announcement is made to open the public comment period. At this time, one by one, any telephone users will be asked to identify themselves and will be unmuted to permit commentary. For web browser participants, comments or questions may be submitted via the chat function, but will not be acknowledged outside of the designated public comment portion of the meeting. Chat users must also provide his or her name and address for the record in order to be heard. Any written comments submitted in advance will be read aloud and addressed during the public comment portion of tonight's meeting, and there were none. May I have a flag salute led by Mayor Chow, please.
Please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Council President, before we begin the regular agenda.
I have to say,
We have a roll call first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Mr. Deweese,
Here.
Mrs. Madden,
Here.
Mr. Notaro,
Here.
Mr. Perry,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Utz,
Here.
Mr. Palestina,
Here.
and Mr. Chow.
Council President, before we begin our regular agenda, I'd like to be recognized to give a prepared statement if I may.
Sure.
Excuse me, Mr. Palestina, I did request that I be able to speak.
You can immediately follow the mayor. He had also requested that he had made the same request previously.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I stand before you with immense regret and remorse for my inappropriate behavior at the City Council's meeting on Tuesday, July 13th, 2021. I had sent a letter or an email of an apology to Councilwoman Madden and Councilman Deweese, and all present at that meeting. And I strongly feel that the community deserves one too. And I want to begin by stating this. On that day, unfortunately, an uneventful event occurred that affected me personally. And I have to say, my mindset carried over into that meeting. In hindsight, I should not have attended that meeting that evening. But I felt as the mayor, it was my responsibility and duty to attend the council meeting and to participate. There was absolutely no excuse for my disruptive outbursts and offensive behavior that I exhibited on that evening. It was completely uncharacteristic, irresponsible, and insensitive of me. You know, it's been my honor and position as the mayor in this community, and it's a privilege to serve as a public servant. And I wholeheartedly take great pride helping to improve the quality of life for this community. Now, I can't erase what happened. I can only extend my apologies, not only to the city, to everyone at that meeting, and especially to Councilwoman Madden and Councilman DeWeese. But it's humbled me, and I promise you, it's a mistake that will never, ever happen. So I apologize to the community. I apologize to everyone that was there that evening. I apologize to the members of City Council, and I especially apologize to Councilwoman Madden and Councilman DeWeese. As I said, it's something that I cannot erase. It has become an embarrassment to me and a regrettable event. And as I said, that I will move forward and that it has humbled me and it will never, ever happen again. Thank you, Councilman Palestina.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilwoman Madden?
Thank you, Mr. Palestina. Can everybody hear me okay? Because I know a lot of times nobody can hear me.
Yes.
Good. It seems to me sometimes we do live in a male-dominated society, and this council is certainly no exception. But right now, I'm speaking as a woman and as councilwoman for the city of Northfield, and I would like to make a statement. The Republican Party has displayed a lack of respect for women over the past years. Apparently, this misogynistic mindset exists in our city government as well. 3 years ago, as a newly elected councilwoman, I felt the ire of a former councilman who happened to be a Republican. This time, our mayor has lashed out. Mayor Chow's behavior at the July 13th meeting was unconscionable. Not only was he totally out of control, he was vulgar and falsely accused me of racism. During his 5-minute, 11-second rant, he portrayed himself as the victim, as he did again today. Mayor Chow, you are not the victim here. You verbally assaulted me, your brother-in-law, Councilman DeWeese, and our council president, Mr. Palestina. It has also come to light that this type of egregious behavior is not new to you as you profess, and the record exists. Your behavior is unbecoming and, quite frankly, unacceptable for a leader of this city. Lastly, Mr. Palestina, as president of council, you lost control of the situation, and as a result, this chaos was allowed to escalate. You did not protect me. When you sit in that chair as council president, you are here for all of us. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. We'll move on to committee reports. Councilman Perry.
Thank you, Mr. President. The local 2001 road program is on the agenda tonight. The ordinance for the acquisition of the property for the pumping station at Mill and Dime is also, the ordinance is on for tonight under sewer operations. Supplying is going to begin major operation next month. And we've got a pre-construction meeting for that, and the engineer brings up to date on that. And no activity on the senior citizens committee at this point in time. So I have right now, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman Utz.
Mike Vitalo, our zoning officer and code enforcement officer, last day was on July 31st. I was not at his farewell ceremony. I'm sorry I missed that, but I understand it was moving and he was moved, and we wish Mike well on his next chapter. In planning board, we gave final approval to the ice cream shop that's going to be on Route 9. So we all look forward to adding another business to Northfield, where the Mike Blizzard studio used to be, will now be an ice cream parlor, which is great. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Notaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing to report in my committee, but I do have some questions for the engineer. I'll save that for the engineer.
Okay. On one note with the on your committee on FAN, do you want to touch base on the new program? You want me to take that? I mean,
When the new yeah, we could do, I didn't know if we were gonna, yeah, but we could do that. So the FAN.
just bring council up to
Bring
speed.
council up to date on that. So the FAN organization obviously works as an independent program that's separate from the city. What we're going to do is in the future, they're going to fill out the field use application in order to use the field, and we're gonna give them the insurance money as a donation instead of
Well, they're paying for their own.
paying for their own insurance. And we're not paying for it.
Yeah, in order to assist them in continuing their progress and their support of our city, we'll support them financially through a separate donation.
Through a separate donation.
So, okay, yeah.
And that'll be the same for all sports groups, correct, Council
Yes,
President?
yes, as part of the ordinance that was passed last year regarding organizations as such and the policies to protect minors. That's one of the things that we've done is to separate
The city-
those groups. They'll all do field use applications, the same as anybody that wants to use any of our fields. And then they'll run their programs separate from the city, or as a separate autonomous unit. Okay, Councilman DeWeese?
Thank you, Council President. You may remember a couple meetings ago, FAN organization came in with some list of concerns around the facility. Public Works has been working towards taking care of that list. Some of the things that have been done, the trees have been trimmed along the home field side heading back toward the football field, the practice field. There's some old fences that they asked to have removed back by the shed. That's been taken care of. We have purchased and ordered a new roll-up door for the guys to get in and turn on the lights and to have access to the sport tower. Couple locks have been replaced, the new hose bib was put in to replace some of the bathroom signs. In addition to the bathroom signs, they are working inside the bathroom. They're going to repaint the floors. They're going to put up some trim where the wall treatments meet the ceiling was not a very even cut, so it didn't look very nice. We're also going to replace the cove molding as well, and they did some repairs under one of the sinks that was leaking. In addition to that, they noticed that they were replacing some boards on the bridges that take you from the football field over to the baseball side of the complex. While doing that, they noticed some of the structural sections of the bridge need to be replaced. So they have done that. They repaired everything, the decking as well as the structure. They're going to inspect the second bridge, which is back by the Little League building. So that's something that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. We also have an appointment set up, or trying to set up, to put up a set of stairs, taking folks up to the sport tower as opposed to having to climb up that ladder. Some folks are familiar with the inside of it, you have to climb up a skinny ladder, so it's not very comfortable to get up into. So that's something that we're looking at as well. That's probably gonna take a little longer to accomplish because it's just, we have to go through codes and get an architecture plan as well. So that's in the works. That's all that I have today.
Very good. Quick question. The tower, the access hatch to the upstairs and the railings, is there a way we could maybe get that removed and locked before the
So
start
I
of the
meet
season?
with, the architect, we're gonna look at that and we'll decide. The Public Works already has that hatch locked.
Locked, okay.
That's already done, so. Once I meet with him, we'll come up with a plan of what to do up there. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. In regard to courts and violations, we have all received, I believe, updates from the mayor coming from the county as well, that Hamilton Township has agreed to join into the county court system, which brings us to 8 municipalities. And the mayor may touch upon this as well, but that improves our numbers in terms of, in all cases there. That has yet to be, I haven't seen the updated numbers with that, but tomorrow there is a meeting in Atlantic County. I think we all received that email that in Mays Landing, there is a meeting at 3:30, which I plan on attending. I'm assuming the mayor will be there as well, but I do plan on attending that to get some updates in terms of committee assignments for personnel and finance committee for the county as they get that ball rolling and hopefully get us in line to begin that with the new year. And secondly, the Little League and Babe Ruth, I know that the Little League is currently registering athletes for the fall season. And I know that softball they're having pitching instruction. So we want to encourage people to take advantage of those opportunities as baseball and softball continue into the fall. And also as another note, just recently, the South Jersey South Shore Baseball League concluded its inaugural season. Joe Bunning of Bunning Family Pharmacy here in Northfield, a huge benefactor to the city, the sports programs and other programs as well in Northfield. He began that league and they held their all-star game here in Northfield at Birch Grove, not last Saturday, but the previous Saturday. It was a tremendous success. I had the honor of throwing out the first pitch at that game and truly was a wonderful event that was held in Birch Grove that evening. And subsequently there were championship series that were held with some games at Birch Grove as well. So they concluded a very successful season. And I congratulate Joe Bunning and the South Jersey South Shore Baseball League on a tremendous inaugural season. And that's
Throw
all
a strike?
Were you there?
I heard it.
Let's just say yes. Let's just say yes then.
Perfect
I did.
strike, wasn't it?
It's right over the plate. Thank you.
On the courts, while we're on that topic, I believe they suggested Northfield as personnel committee.
That was a recommendation made by,
Mr.
to be
Ferguson?
discussed. It was a recommendation, but that still has yet to be determined.
Okay,
and
so we don't need to
discussed.
worry about putting anybody forth.
Not at this point.
Okay,
It was a
thank-
suggestion made that I'm assuming will be discussed tomorrow as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Madden.
Yes, as far as the next library meeting is scheduled for Thursday, August 12th. The next Mainland Regional High School Board of Education meeting is Monday, August the 16th. I was unable to attend the July 19th meeting and the minutes have not been posted on their website as yet. The next safety meeting is Thursday, August the 19th. And one last thing, Ms. Knieze, I'm asking that my statement be entered into the minutes verbatim.
I was going to ask you for it.
I have a copy and I
Thank you.
signed it. Thank you. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Did the library pass the resolution opposing the merger?
They did. I have it here, actually. They did pass it. The board passed it.
Thank you.
but I have a copy if you want it.
Then I just want to make sure. I heard it secondhand, but I want to make sure. that-
Yeah, they did, the library board passed it as a resolution. to the board.
From finance and collections, well, in particular, in collections, I just want to mention that there was a resident did stop by our city clerk's office and mentioned, was giving some kudos to Michelle Kurtzis, our tax collector, just stating that she's always friendly and helpful, and stating the fact that they don't get that kind of service everywhere. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Appreciate the good work that she does. It's one thing when there's no complaints, but when somebody goes out of their way to say something good, then that means the service was all that much better. As far as the municipal alliance, our coordinator has resigned. Tonight, we have on the agenda the resolution establishing some of that alliance. But going forward, we will need to replace that coordinator. And if that comes as a recommendation from the mayor. But I believe right now, we don't have any particular person set. We're ready to move forward, Mayor, we're going to post some in-house postings for the open position for that coordinator, so that everyone has an opportunity that's interested. In addition, another posting will be, as Mr. Utz had said, Mike Detallo has retired, and one of his positions was Clean Communities. So that'll be another posting that'll be going up. So I just think that's appropriate to mention that now. And that's all I have.
Mr. President, the tax rate was struck and certified, the new tax rate for the new tax bill. The computer rated 3.454, rounded rated 3.455.
Oh, thank you. I didn't have that last week. I just. Okay,
Down 1.3 cents.
1.3 cents down? Yeah.
I thought so. I was afraid to say it. I was afraid I read it wrong. It did go down a little.
Moving on to our ongoing topics. The Zion Road Pump Station, which we have an ordinance on the agenda. Is there anything more to discuss there?
Yes, I've provided as you said, Council President, there is an ordinance on the agenda tonight authorizing the purchase of a portion of Lot 1, Block 38. There is I guess for lack of a better word, a site plan or a survey attached to that. So that's up for council's consideration tonight. I also prepared the agreement of sale, which the council will enter into if the ordinance is in fact adopted. I forwarded that to Brian Hune, the attorney for the owners of the property. He got back to me, I think it was one day last week and again this week, with two very minor changes. When his client purchased the property, they used equity title. He wanted to use equity title, which is a Northfield-based business. We had surety title in there, only because it might be a little more seamless in terms of him getting the appropriate endorsement on his title insurance policy. I have zero problem with that. And he said because his bank is going to require the funds that we pay to the seller to go directly to the bank, and he's not netting any money because it pays down his mortgage. He asked that his attorney's fees not to exceed $1,500 be paid by the city. So that would be the only change to the agreement that would be substantive. I guess that's something that, when you vote tonight, just keep that in the back of your head, and maybe we could take a straw poll as to whether or not that's agreeable to council.
I would, yeah, sure. Councilman Deweese, is that agreeable? Additional, for us to incur the attorney's fees in addition to the 7,500, not to exceed 1,500, so total would be not to exceed, would be 9,000 if it goes to that.
Yeah.
Councilman Perry?
Yes, the schematic for the meets and bounds doesn't show the entire property, just the public information.
I think that may have been a printing issue.
It's too big, it won't print.
It's, Rami, do you have a copy of the entire site plan?
It's on the
Okay.
website in full if you look at it on the website, but I couldn't get it to print.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Mayor Perry, it's essentially that
Oh, I
corner.
understand what it is, I don't know if it's public.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so as Mary said, that is on the website if anybody wants to take a look at that.
It's at the intersection of Zion and Mill for anyone in the public. Councilwoman Madden, sorry, I forgot your name for a moment.
Yes.
Councilman Knott?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
And Councilman Najjar?
Yes.
Okay, and I as well, and a yes.
Okay, we'll make that revision and we'll have the agreement. I think in the resolution, it authorizes the mayor's execution of that agreement. So we'll go ahead and make that one change. And let me think about whether we want to add that language to the resolution before we move that resolution tonight.
Thank you.
Ordinance?
Ordinance, yes.
Ordinance, I'm sorry.
Northfield Avenue and Route 9 drainage, have we heard back from the state or nothing? They haven't come back, okay. We have nothing further on the lease at this time. And the sump pumps, are we,
No, no update.
okay. Do we have, would you like to start with the ordinance on that or is there some,
And that was the recommendation that for the future, they would have to have on-site, engineering and plans, keep the water on-site, like the stormwater.
okay,
I mean, it's more of a planning aspect for the land use ordinance than it is city council, so technically, you know, the language, I wouldn't know if it would come from the council or from the board to us, vice versa. I guess that's a legal question.
okay. Okay, we'll follow up and I'll follow up with you during this, between now and the next meeting so we can,
Very good.
we'll work on something.
And maybe something you want to look at, the new construction, if we have single homes being built, you want to look into that, they have basements as well.
Okay. Stormwater facilities,
Yes,
the shared,
the meeting scheduled with Mark Short, the county engineer, this Friday to go through our list of the drain pipes that we are sharing. And at that point, we are going to try to find out if there are any other systems that we don't know about. I mean, last year, Councilman Luis found a system that we did not know that it's a county system, but it's servicing our street, so we're trying to finalize the systems. And then what Mr. Short wants to do after we get all that worked out, he would like to have a meeting between the county and us as municipality to determine, to discuss the interlocal agreement and our responsibility. So that would be next step. But this Friday, we'll try to finalize the system, identify the system. And then from that point on, we'll have a meeting with the county executive office. Move forward with the
okay. And I know it came up in another meeting I was in as far as our stormwater system and the mapping of it. So this, obviously, there's some confusion, but do you know of any other mapping that we might have of any of the other stormwater?
We don't have mapping for our system. The only thing we have is outflow structures. We located all the outflow structures that was defined for the NJDEP. And some of those outflow structures that we, as a municipality, were maintaining for a while, it turned out to be the county system. So that's what we are working to identify the system, say, okay, this is solely with the county. This is the one we share with the county.
Okay,
And then from that point on, our agreement is going to be catered to the systems that we share with the county. That's how we have to work out.
thank you. And the last item, the library ballot question, county library system. Any update
Council
there?
President?
Yes.
My intent for the committee, and I'm having, juggling between the county courts and so forth. Excuse me, it's my intent to have the committee meet and establish the pros and cons and present to city council for their review.
Okay. Thank you. Yes,
The memorandum of understanding with the library expires December 31st, 2022. 2022. We have a pre-existing agreement on both parties at this point in time. And I think that was an issue that was brought to my attention, and Councilwoman Madden just reminded me of that. In the resolution that they passed, the board of trustees, their attorney said that that was an issue.
what is the memorandum of understanding on what?
December 31st, 2022.
It follows through to that, but what is in that you're,
The agreement between the city.
oh, the agreement to keep them as they are? Okay,
Well, no, that we pay, the library board pays the city for services, that was a contractual agreement.
gotcha. Thank you. New business, is there any grant issues or grant opportunities we need to discuss tonight? See, the next item is potential auction of city-owned property, but what we'll do is we have, I think that's best if we have that in closed session at our next meeting to discuss that. It has to do, there's some city-owned property that is designated as in the COA program. So we'll discuss that in closed session to see whether, how to move forward with those properties that we've been, that we might want to auction off since we're not doing anything with them at this point. As I already noted, the next two items, the Clean Communities Coordinator and the Municipal Alliance will be posted, those vacancies, and we'll hope to fill those quickly. So the question here now, the next item would be the use of flag and banner signs. There's some confusion on how it's how people read the ordinances, and question as to whether or not those signs are or should be permitted. As is right now, I think the way it reads, it seems as though those are not permitted, and just wanted to have some discussion on that to see if if that's something that we should refer back or just decide or refer back our suggestions to the planning board regarding those signs. I've seen a few around town and there's been complaints about some, but I don't see them as being that objectionable. I mean, right now it's a 30-day window. And again, it's the way it's read. There's some confusion, and I guess part of the subject coming back up is as others of us are trying to help fill the void of our code enforcement officer not being here, things become more noticeable. So is there anybody on council that believes that we should allow those signs? I mean, I for one think we should give a little more latitude to businesses to try to promote their,
Yeah, are they offensive or are they?
just
they're
those
flag-
banner signs, the ones that blow in the wind.
Yeah, I think they're kind of nice.
Yeah, as long as it's
They're
not,
pretty.
Maybe set a standard, square footage.
Yeah.
You can't have.
right now, I think that, again, it's a 30-day, or if it's a grand opening, something like that. I think we should readdress that and revisit that to
Yeah.
potentially allow a little more of that.
I think we do everything we can do to support our businesses, particularly new businesses or businesses that are, having specials or something. So I think a supportive role is a good thing.
Council President, in my discussions with the former zoning and code enforcement agent, I expressed my concerns to support the businesses. Some of the discussions that were brought up was regarding the 30 days for the grand opening award, allowing some kind of permit fee to allow them to advertise for 30 days, but not keep the banners and the flags and the balloon signs and the air ones up for an indefinite period of time. There was concern, I think Councilman Perry had pointed out that his concerns about, and correct me if I'm wrong, Frank, about some of these signs may not be fastened very securely and are blowing. And I know of one business where it blew off because we had, I forgot, a high winds and so forth. There was concerns with regards to how we would judge the condition of the banners and signs. As you know, being the material, some became frail, some became very discolored. Also, there was a question with regards to what was being advertised on the signs. So all these were factors that I presented my concerns to the planning board as well as to the zoning and code enforcement agency. And, you know, at that point in time, in accordance to our zoning ordinance, I believe, and I reiterated this, that it was the, from our solicitor, that it is the code enforcement agent that makes that determination. And so it would be ultimately him, you know, as far as how he interpreted the ordinance that was passed. But I do have, you know, some concerns and as well as when I spoke to Mr. Catalio, he also expressed some concerns with monitoring and so forth.
The banners and the flags, do they include their sale flags? Those, talk about this.
What?
Yeah, I think that's the one, those are the ones that have been coming up as a question.
Yeah,
The ones that look like a sail, yes.
Yeah, they're not regulated.
yeah, they're not ready.
Yeah, the other ones were the old signs used to have on the parking lot, the car parking lot, the little triangles, and then they would do the whole property. And that would be like an endless thing of, I don't remember if you remember the old car lots used to have, and that was an issue too, because then they break and they're blowing around, and you gotta worry about the hurricane forces on some of the other sides. But, I mean, you can put everything in and regulate it, it's just a matter of somebody policing it, and, you know, but you don't want a place to have 100 signs that are, you know, stating certain things here,
Yeah.
because the land use code with the signs, you can only say certain things, you can't say everything. You can put like, you know, repair or this, that, or the other, but then when you start advertising all different types of things, and people are looking, it makes like the electronic signs. There's a whole lot to it. You know, you look at
Yeah.
the land use ordinance and it's in there, what we can do now, what we can't do.
Another concern, Council President, was the placement of these signs. Some of these signs were placed on the curb or the street right away of the city, you know, so close and, you
Yeah.
know, that is questionable as is it.
Well, safety, yes. There's
Safety
right of ways.
reasons, So forth, as people were coming in and out of driveways and so forth, and, you know, as people are driving down the street.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add to that? Okay. The last item, we did already talk a bit about the field use, so we already covered that. All organizations will put in their own field use. And the last item is the Zion Pump Station project.
Yes, Council. As you know that we are funding the pump station through the IBAN. One of the requirements is to have an SED, which is socially economically disadvantaged business utilization program. Part of that is when we put the project out of bid, we have to have certain language in the agreement that the contractor shall try to get an economically disadvantaged business to participate. If he can't find a business, that's okay, but he has to try and he has to make every effort. Part of this program, we have to have a compliance officer, or somebody who works for the city. He has to be the compliance officer. His responsibility is contract to be sure that he does what he's supposed to do when it comes to hiring socioeconomically disadvantaged businesses. that will be through a monthly meeting. So every month we'll have a meeting with the contractor and we'll check if he hired somebody. Then if he hired a contractor, then we have to notify the state, say, okay, we hired this contractor, we paid him this much money, this percent of the contract, just to keep them in the loop so they need to know what's going on. with
Just anytime we're hiring any contractors to work,
Just this job.
just this job?
This job itself, the contractor, the general contractor has to make every effort to find a socially economically disadvantaged business that can participate in this business, in the project. Sometimes they can't find them, but we don't get penalized, but we need to be sure that the contractor is trying, and if he does, we need to update the state. So that's the compliance officer.
So that should come out of, I guess it's this pump station, so it should come out of the sewer department?
That's what I'm thinking. The sewer department will be at the meeting. And I'm preparing the compliance plan. I don't have to identify the person, but we need to think about, I need a person in the city that's gonna step up and be that compliance officer. I just want to bring that to the council that this is part of the program. We're not on the hook to do anything except monitor the contract.
And it's and we have to do the reports. We're
Yes,
required.
It's a monthly report, and this project will be probably done in 3 months. So basically, we're getting 3 reports,
Okay.
and at the end will be a quarterly report that goes with the package. That's basically what the compliance officers in Scotland will do. At this meeting will be an agenda item, we'll discuss that, and that's
When is the project begin?
well, I'm gonna send the paperwork out to, it's okay, I just sent a copy to Mary to just review it, be sure that I didn't miss anything about running the city. If everything's okay, I'll send it up to the state. In about 60 days, they will approve it. But meanwhile, I went on the bank, the website for the bank. It seems like we're ready to go. So this contract will apply and have them accept the terms, and then we'll set everything in motion.
Okay.
So we can probably start in about 60 to 90 days.
And we just have to put someone in place we just get someone ready to do those reporting.
Right, I mean.
They'll be in the meetings though.
They'll be in the meeting with me and we'll just go through it and just do the report, he signs and sends it out. I can't do that because I'm not employed by the city. It has to be a city employee.
Okay. Thank you. At this point, let's please refer to your agendas.
The revision for ordinance.
Ordinance 9.
Just the addition of a $1,500 cap on sellers attorneys.
Wow. That was quick. As that's going around, we'll just note that in the regular agenda, the resolutions, resolution 147 and 148 will be taken off the agenda tonight. Okay. The minutes, Councilman Perry and Councilman Notaro. Resolutions, Councilman DeWeese, Councilman Utz. Ordinance 7, Councilman Utz, Councilwoman Madden. Ordinance 8, Councilman Notaro, Councilman Smith. And ordinance 9, Councilman Smith, Councilman Perry. Payment of bills, Councilwoman Madden, Councilman Smith, Councilman Utz. Can't read my own notes. And meeting notices, Councilman DeWeese. At this time, we'll open the meeting to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any subject, please state your name and address for the record and observe a 5-minute limit per speaker. You can come next.
Okay.
Thank-
I'll take off my mask.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, hi. My name's Carolyn Bucci. I live at 530 Ridgewood Drive. As a woman, a member of the Republican Club of Northfield, I'm deeply offended at a blanket statement that the men of the Republican Party treat anyone with disrespect. The members, especially the members of the Republican Party, including the elected officials, have treated me and other women that I know with the utmost respect. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
My name is Rita Gasandi. I live at 654 Pennsylvania Avenue in Summers Point. I ask you to bear with me because what I have to say is extremely difficult, as you'll see. I've put 3 sons through mainland as well as 1 grandson. I'm very proud to say four mainland graduates. I lived in Atlantic County. I'm a credentialed for a long time. I'm a credentialed educator. I'm a credentialed teacher as well as a credentialed administrator. 5 years ago, I filed a police report regarding your mayor, and I filed it with the city of Linwood regarding your mayor's egregious behavior towards my son Kevin, who he sexually harassed on more than 1 occasion. This is not up for dispute. I have in front of me a founded incident from the school's own paperwork. This happened. Their own report says so. In Mr. Chow's class, it was a Friday, the last class of the day, and we were going over how to use a microscope for a future lab. Mr. Chow was talking about cells on the body that were so small you couldn't see. Then he used one of my private parts as a verbal example that you couldn't see in the microscope. He didn't say it directly, but everybody knew that he was talking about. Later in the class, Mr. Chow was talking about muscles, and he showed us a muscle on the shoulder. He once again used my shoulder, for example, and tapped me on that muscle. Then he pointed out a muscle in his hamstrings. And as an example, he bent down in front of my desk and said something like this. I bet you like that, Kevin. Did you get excited? I've told this story to hundreds of people, hundreds. The superintendent, the prosecutor, the new prosecutor, or the well, I haven't gone to the 3rd prosecutor yet, I intend to. Everybody's appalled, everybody's, crazy about it, but nothing was ever done. I find it disgusting that you would sit here and live this lie for 5 years. And this was my opportunity to give up a 5-year saga. People said, why didn't you do anything? As I said, I did. I went chain of command. I went everywhere. Nobody wanted to hear anything. No lawyer wanted to touch it. So I find it ironic that you would say to this dear woman, I hope you don't find that offensive. I don't think you do. That you would say to this dear woman that she's pulling a race card or some type of privilege on you. You're the one that's pulled the privilege. Okay. I have the paper here from Mr. Marone, the superintendent and king of mainland. He's his own boss, which is helpful. And he says on here, NA for discipline. NA. He put a letter in Mr. Chow's file and told me that if the behavior continued, he spoke to him and he would not go to his tenure. He would not go after him for tenure. I think you asserted privilege. I think you asserted privilege when Mr. Marone was present when the police interviewed you. How does that happen? I'm a teacher. I taught in Philadelphia. I taught in Willingboro. I taught in Camden. I taught in Hemp City. Okay. I stand on my reputation. Okay. Never in 30 years did I ever say to a kid, you're acting stupid. We don't say, let alone. There were 3 incidents. Only 1 was documented. There were 3. He intimidated, then he fished. I'll leave you with this. He said in the classroom, apropos of nothing. Well, oh, by the way, the cooperating teacher happened to be on a field trip the day this occurred. Coincidentally. He said, apropos of nothing in the middle of the classroom, if Kevin Gasandi would use deodorant, maybe some girls would like him. Or maybe some boys. So, the first thing he said was he was defining force. Early in the first month of school, he said, if I beat Kevin Gasandi to a bloody pulp, blah, 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 blah. He uses Kevin for force. So as I explained to Mr. Marone, he intimidated him. Then he fished for sexual information. Then he out and out solicited him. And when I used the word solicited, Mr. Marone, who knows me pretty well, said, oh, you always want to be dramatic. And I said, and I'll leave you with this. If I'd been down in front of any of you, male, female, plant, whoever, and say, that's got cited, I'm soliciting you. You need to resign, okay? You've outlasted the statute of limitations. You can't be sued for this. I don't care. I never wanted your money. But for you to sit there and talk about signs and banners and mundane and have access to our children, and I've seen you for 5 years in the current, with your arms around the latest Cub Scout, you need to go away. You need to go away. The ball's in your court, gentlemen and ladies. The elephant's out of the room. 5 years I've borne this. My son is mortified. My son's gonna be mortified when he sees this. A 16-year-old boy who happened to be homeless as we were foreclosed right before that. No DIFUS was called. My next elephant that I'm going to go to is all the school boards to discuss. Mr. Morone, I know that's not your venue. I thank you.
Craig Tanzola, 10 Magnolia Court, Northfield. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I just want to say that I've had a son attend Main Lane High School, and I've been aware of this report for some time. Erwin, that's uncalled for. That's bullying. You have a report. You have a report at the school. You have a report at the school. It's documented. And I got to tell you, I read that report. I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted that you're my mayor. I have to tell you that. I have 4 minutes. I didn't come here for that. But I got to tell you, I've been in here many times, and I don't think any of you have ever seen me like this. Have you? I'm almost in tears. I'm broken up because you know what? We don't stand up for our children. Who's going to stand up for our children? Okay? You know what you did. You know what you did to that kid. You abused that kid verbally. And I talked to an attorney about that, Erwin, and he had more to say about that. Okay? It's wrong. I got to tell you, Erwin, I voted for you. I've supported you many times. But I have watched the decline in your demeanor. Okay? I think it's time for you to step down. I came here because I spoke to many of you, and I'm going to change my demeanor now, and I apologize for bringing that up. But I came here and I spoke to many of you about the marijuana business, and you voted on that, and you voted yes, you voted no, and I really don't know, where we sit, how we sit, and the state statutes, because if it's anything like the COVID statutes, we're all confused. But I did want to bring up that I did mention to several council people here in my discussions. And if I haven't discussed it with you, I really felt that your mindset was blocked. But with that being said, I have a friend that owns the building, the press building, and it was bought. And he leased that out to, I believe, Pure Leaf, which is a cannabis growery, not a dispensary. And they grow it for medical. And so for everybody that, doesn't understand medical marijuana, there are a great deal of need for medical marijuana in this country. And actually everybody says, oh, there's such a stigma. And I spoke to Dave, I said, listen, our councilman here, I spoke to Councilman DeWeese, I spoke to you, Frank, I spoke to you, I spoke to you, and I've heard that if we put a growery here, that the odor may come through. So what I'd like to do is ask the council. They have a professor at Stockton University, and I think we all need to get an education here, okay, that we listen to him. My son took that course, okay, at Stockton. And I got an education from my son because I'm not really astute. I couldn't even tell you the brands, the flavors, and the ounces, but I have been, and I visited a store in Las Vegas, and I got to tell you that you have to have an ID. You have to walk in there, and it's an amazing store. It probably cost over $500,000 to put together. It's professionally run. You're not seeing deadbeats like you thought, but what I did see was limousines, Jaguars, and Mercedes. These are the type of quality people that are buying it. Now, our community, okay, 70% of our community has endorsed marijuana, 70%. I don't think the 70% wants it, okay, in their neighborhood. I agree with that. I don't think 70% want their children smoking marijuana. And I could tell you, anybody that knows me, okay, and knows my household, my kids don't drink in my house. My kids don't smoke pot. I can assure you that. And I can assure you that I'm really strict, real strict. We have no DWIs in my family. So, you know, this town approved a liquor license, a liquor distributor license, and that is, you know, maybe the methodology of choice here. But now we have a business of 62% of this country now believes that marijuana is okay. So there's an evolving. And like I said to you, David, I said, this has already run away. If you walk into a casino in Las Vegas, I went into a non-smoking floor and it's billowing out the doors of the other rooms. And I said to the security guard, I'm in a no smoking floor. He goes, it's all over. There's nothing we could do about it. But I want to point out that we, with the growery, we have an opportunity. David, you're on the economic committee, and I did bring that to your attention. Okay, the grower is possible. According to Jim DiNatale, who owns the building, the city of Pleasantville is getting $1 million a year. That could be substantial for this city. I've never seen anything in this city other than taxing our public, bringing in revenue.
Mr.
And our
Tanzola,
businesses.
I'm sorry, can you
I can wrap it up.
wrap it up, please?
If you can give me 1 minute. I think $1 million could go a long way. We could put that money towards our sports programs, our police, and our fire trucks. Now, a growery is a sealed building. It's only for medical marijuana. It has to have secured guards around it, okay? It's not sold to the public. It's not in the public. And we do have land, and we maybe possibly even have a businessman in our community that is interested in putting one together. So I've spoken to him. I won't mention his name, okay? I think that would be rude. But I think that there's opportunity here if we have open minds and some closed minds. And I got to say this, Brian, I heard your speech. And like I said to David, you could not be, you know, not love that speech because, you know, we all have children here. But as parents, we have to enforce our children to do the right things at all times. Okay, so I'm just hoping that the council can have an open mind, bring in the professionals, take a look at it that way. Okay, and then bring in some business people and take a look at it that way. I think $1 million could go a long way. That's 10% of everybody's tax rate here. And I know that, you know, there's some stigma to it that's going to lead to other drugs. But you know what? We have DWIs here. We have domestics here. And then what happened and now this will be my closing statement. In Oxford Village, I rent a condo there. And I know I'm long-winded. I'm sorry, Tom. In Oxford Village, they just had a situation in there where the guys, the kids or whatever, they had a couple pounds of marijuana and guns. And whatever happened? Boom, a gun went off into the ceiling. Somebody could have got murdered. Let's take the drugs out of the households. Let's take the drug sales out of Northfield and possibly put it where it belongs. Because you know what? The illegal drugs are the lace drugs. And the illegal drugs are the ones that do get to our children. And I'll close with that. Thank you so much.
Tom Crowe, 2602 Leeds Avenue, Northfield. Excuse me. I'm here to talk about the medical marijuana. First of all, we can do a lot of things as a municipality. You have zoning ordinances, you have things that you can approve and you can't approve, and your zoning board can approve. So, but this is the thing. If we don't get on board now, we're gonna miss the boat. Because Egg Harbor Township has already approved it. So, you know, there's nothing stopping it from being here in our backyard. All right, and I know that was Your intention is you don't want to hear, but it's here. It's going to be here. So the citizens of the city should reap some of the benefits of this. One is being our tax rate and the revenues that we can raise from this. The other one is this. Alcohol kills 261 people a day in this country. All right? But yet, you guys will sit back and approve a liquor license. But you won't approve a marijuana license, okay, where statistics show that it is not anywhere near the effects of alcohol. But yet, we'll go ahead and we'll approve a liquor license, we'll sell it for $600,000 or whatever we got for it, and that's okay, because that's acceptable. All right? I heard you say, Mr. Smith, that you're sick and tired of hearing about the 70% of the people in this town that voted for it. But you know what? You're here for your constituents. All right? Your constituents have spoken. They've said they passed it here in this city. If you look at your data, okay? I don't understand what you guys are waiting for. All right? Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say that if we don't get on board now, then we can get on board later. All right? The whole thing is, the bandwagon's leaving. We can get on now and be proactive and get to where we need to be on this, or we're going to miss the bandwagon. And the bandwagon's still going to end up in our backyard, only we're going to get nothing. So that was all. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Crown.
Christine Gordon, Northfield Avenue. I would like to thank the police department and the involved council members for addressing the problem on Northfield Avenue that we brought up. Thank you so much. It's gotten a lot quieter. Trash still continues, but everybody's doing as much as they can. And I really appreciate. But I'm not here for that tonight. I am to thank everybody. But I want to bring up the Airbnb problem in Northfield that nobody seems to be. I want to know what is the outcome when you serve these people a notice that they have to shut down their Airbnb or conform to the Airbnb rule? You know, you have 30 days or more. How do you enforce that? I mean, do you go in there and they can just, because I know I've stayed in Airbnbs and I call the people when they say they have a 2-night or 3-night minimum. I said, can you give me one? You know, text them or email. So I want to know how that, once they receive notice to shut down their Airbnb, what's done after that? Because they're still running them. There's still cars all out in front of them. I mean, you're not going to drive by and look to see if how many cars are there at night.
Oh, we want, yeah.
Do they go on the site and they ask Airbnb or what these people are renting? Like, how are you protecting this? I'm worried about Megan's Law. I'm worried somewhere in some bad places, I mean, right next to a daycare. Like, that's creepy. So what are they going to do about these Airbnbs? What is, I don't know what after they tell them, they give them notice, what's after that? Do you want to think about that? Look it up?
I think I think they get a fine.
Well,
is there anybody Mary's been investigating as well. Thank you.
So this council's job is to enact legislation. So this council will adopt the ordinances that are subject to the enforcement prong of government. The enforcement prong in your particular scenario would be code enforcement officer or the zoning officer, and it would be his or her job, whoever that may be, to enforce that ordinance. It would be their job to receive a complaint, investigate it, and if they decided that there was quote unquote probable cause to issue a citation, that citation could be issued, a warning could be issued. If a citation were issued, it then transfers to the judicial branch of the city government, which is the Northfield Municipal Court at the moment. And it would be up to a judge and the prosecutor and whoever the defendant is to resolve the issue.
But what I want to know is how do you monitor this? How are you going to, tell if they're complying? You don't know. You don't know if they're not doing
The only
it.
way.
Are you going to go on the site? Are you going to contact Airbnb and see what their schedule is or something?
The only thing that people on this council can do is receive complaints and refer it to the zoning board.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, the zoning or the code enforcement
Right.
officer. It is not the job of the people on this dais in this room tonight to enforce the ordinances. It's
Right.
their job to enact them.
Okay.
And then it would be up to the judicial branch to enforce that in the executive branch. So it's.
Because they're still running them. They've been, two of them have been notices over 2.5 weeks ago and they're still
If
running
you
them.
have actual knowledge of that,
So you don't though. So you don't.
yeah, I mean, if you had actual knowledge of that and you could present that to the code enforcement officer, by all means, and you personally can sign a complaint against the owner. It doesn't have to be the code enforcement officer. You can personally sign as an individual a complaint against that person and go through the court process
Right.
on your own.
Like the one near me, it's a house away, has like 8, they could sleep 8 people. So if they all decide to, when we go to Airbnbs, we meet up in like South Carolina or something from all over the country. So they all show up, at the same time. I don't want those people, like transit people like that coming in and out of my neighborhood.
If the house is next to you and that's the house you're concerned with,
Right.
then, if your information can assist the city in
Okay.
enforcing that provision, if you can take pictures of a car from South Dakota, a car from
Iowa,
Florida.
how many people come here from Iowa?
Iowa, a lot of Iowans.
See the advertisement on.
Yes, it's on.
Yeah,
it's
we-
on,
we-
Barebow and Air, you can look that up. And 2 of the gentlemen or whoever, I don't know if they're gentlemen, have put like 31 day max, and they have, but that's so easy because we've called other ones when we travel and said, I know you want 3 night, can we stay 2? And they go, sure. And then they book you and you don't know whether, but
If I'm being candid, it's a lot like this council in my tenure here has talked a lot about the noise enforcement. It's really difficult
Right.
to enforce that
Right.
and have anything stick in a court of law because of the burden of proof.
I'm just worried about like, kids next door
I hear
come
you.
in.
Well, we
and all
do
this.
go out on the sites someone is going out on the sites to find these from the city as part of the code enforcement. But
Okay.
again, and if they're listed that are in a way that they're against our ordinance, then they're notified that they need to take it down.
Right. Like, I didn't want to come
So
back
we're
in
not-
from the
we-
last time.
No, we are, based on your information, we are trying to police it. But
Okay.
again, we can't, we don't know that they're bending their rules. They may post it for 31 days, but we don't know
Right,
if they're bending the rules. We're not able to know what was.
right. I mean, I would have.
So, but we are trying,
Wanted to leave the Airbnbs.
I mean, we are trying to police that. And I guess as we do that, that may, the same as all of us participating with the other issue, maybe the more participation we have on this will alleviate it.
I didn't know what the measures were after you gave them that letter.
We just keep checking because because you're letting us know about it. So we appreciate that.
Right.
Council President, if they're advertising on these sites, then they're clearly breaking the law.
Well, it's number of days.
But see, it's 30 days
Not
or more.
necessarily,
so
you don't know how long their tenants.
Most of them have.
Right.
So then you have to coincide, okay.
2 of them have
Yeah.
two houses on their properties. So, but the other person didn't take theirs down and they have short stays still on there. So I don't know what's going on with that. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm glad to hear that things have gotten a little better with the other
Thank you
property.
so much. Yeah,
Keep us informed.
yeah, thank you.
Hi, Joe Dooley, 230 Dolphin Avenue. For the record, I just want to show some of my background, some of my credentialing. From 1991 to the year 2000, I was a behavioral science specialist in the United States Army Reserves. Spent my 1 week in a month in coastal VA, in Philadelphia, VA. The marijuana issue is nothing new to me. Had these discussions on medicinal marijuana use with psychiatrists. In fact, I had this discussion with the brain surgeon who put glutathione acetylene brain back together after an accident in the Poconos. So my time in the military, I never had one psychiatrist that I worked under, one psychologist prescribed, this is from 1991 to year 2000, marijuana as a treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder. In fact, in training, when this subject came up repeatedly, the superior officers would suggest if you ever do prescribe marijuana, you would need to show a treatment plan to weed the person off marijuana. Many people smoke marijuana for anxiety, but they're not actually solving the problem with their anxiety, they're masking it. It leads to depression, it leads to suicide. So if somebody smokes marijuana, they have a problem in their life. That problem gets pushed off to tomorrow, it gets pushed off to the next day, it gets pushed off to the day after that. So that's one statement I'd like to make, just from my background. If you look at the current data on marijuana use in this country, we're actually on two different tracks. We have a track of public opinion, and if you create a subset from 2018 to 2001 of medical research, I'm talking the CDC, National Institution of Health, the latest research documentation on marijuana use shows that it is a very dangerous, very dangerous, very addictive, more addictive than alcohol. Very dangerous to our school children. The human brain still develops till the age of 30. When people smoke under 30, it stops your brain from developing in certain areas, your brain receptors. So you can lose, you would lose up to 8 points in IQ score. I voted for the ordinance to decriminalize marijuana, but I didn't vote for a pot store in my town. I have 2 children. One's going to high school this year, one's going to college. If you ask them what's a bigger issue with their peers, they will tell you not alcohol. 2 things they'll tell you is marijuana use and heroin in that order. I've seen my daughter's prom this year, I had 20 school children in my home before they went to prom. My daughter plays soccer, 2 very good soccer players. Like, what happened to them? They were really good soccer players going into their senior year. They couldn't run to her summer vibe. She goes, student X said to me, I smoked last night. She dropped out of soccer for marijuana use. So I've seen it. I've seen that this is becoming a pandemic in our country. I just wanted to speak out about that. And what I ask council to do, I would like to ask you to vote no. If you vote no, I understand budgetary concerns on this issue. If you vote no, you can revisit the subject at a later date. Leave more research coming in the next year. Research is coming out. This is the rush to get this through, because people know, and they know on the site that's for this, that the research that's coming out from 2018, look on the CDC website, look in the National Institution of Health, it's very critical, very against, legalization of marijuana and marijuana use. There's not one medical organization in the world that's for legal marijuana. So I'm strongly against it from what I've seen in my life, my time in Coastal VA, my background in education. Again, I think 10 years ago, I began to develop a little more laissez-faire on the subject, but the recent batch of data that's coming out nationally is showing the dangers of this. It's not about us and what we do, it's about our kids, it's about our school children. I would like to thank Councilman Smith, who's a school teacher in the area. Thank you for standing up for our school children and our younger people. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Heather Mellon, 2509 River Drive. Thank you for that speech there. I've always said that marijuana is a stepping stone to stronger drugs. You go to any drug rehab facility, that's the first thing they say. Marijuana is a stepping stone for stronger drugs. And there are so many different drugs out there today that are killing not only our children, but our adults. You see that if you watch the news. You see like these homeless people, they might not have a home, but they certainly have their drugs, which makes no sense to me. So, and I was reading in here about certain things about the marijuana thing, if it is in our city and we have an establishment that sells marijuana, you can order it and have it delivered like a pizza. Now, what, is that gonna have Northfield marijuana on the truck as they deliver it?
Yeah.
Okay, it will come from a different city, but at least it will not be in our town where it is so susceptible for children. And that's another thing. If you think that it's going to be easier to get marijuana through a store and an establishment, that's not where these children are going to be getting it, because they're going to be lowering the street price. So the children can it's more able to afford it. So I honestly think that we should wait on this and just see how it goes with the other towns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark now, 1119 Legion Terrace. It's funny, living here for a long time and having a business here and being an owner of multiple businesses, I keep on riding around in this city here and I keep on seeing a lot of empty stores. And we have places that are going out of business. And I'd just like to know, what are you guys doing to attract businesses into this community? And I'm not a pro marijuana guy here or anything like that, but we're in a situation where it's pro and negative. But let's put the marijuana thing aside. What are you guys doing here to maintain our tax rate or to lower our tax rate? Instead of our taxes keep on going up. And what are you guys going to do about this?
The most recent report says our tax rate is lower this year.
I understand that, but
We're trying.
I've lived here 40 years and my taxes have gone up quite a bit.
They're going down this year.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
We're trying, we're doing the best we can, Mark, and it's a tough battle. We're providing services for the city.
I understand all that, and I'm not complaining about my services. I'm asking you guys, what kind of plans are you guys coming up with to alleviate our situation so that people here in this city can maintain to still live here instead of people leaving? You know, right now, yeah, we have an influx of people moving in here because they're coming in from Pennsylvania and North Jersey and New York because it's cheaper here. But let me tell you something. They're a lot smarter than we are here. This is not Mayberry like it was in the 60s and the 80s. You know, we have to change with the times. So what I'm saying to you guys is you guys got to start thinking about what's going on. You go down Tilton Road. I mean, years ago it was called the Golden Mile. Now it's not. So, you know, you guys got to start thinking about what's happening here. And look, I hate to be on the pro side and the negative side of this thing, but, you know, we all live here. We're all in this together. So you guys got to come up with some ideas and start doing something.
We have to think realistically that legalization or the permitting cannabis use is an income source. We have to think realistically in that respect.
But you know what? Times are changing and it's going to change
Exactly.
with the times. And unfortunately, we can't control that.
That's
You know, it's
right.
just
That's
like
what I'm
what's
saying.
going on right now with the Green New Deal and our taxes are going to go through the roof. Well, when that all happens, poop's going to hit the fan, and I want to tell you, it's going to be rough.
We have to
I
move
mean,
with
I've
the
lived through a
times.
few recessions and I've been in business 40 years, self-employed. I know what it's all about. So I'm just saying to you, you know, help us out here.
We're trying.
All right, well, you got to do more than try, you know. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone on Zoom?
I do have two people in Zoom. The first person is Mr. Hugh Giordano. Mr. Giordano, did you want to speak over the speaker?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Okay, sir,
Excellent.
you're going to state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Hugh Giordano, 57 Argyle, Blackwood, New Jersey. Mayor and council, I'm here today as a representative of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, UFCW. The UFCW is a national labor union of 1.3 million hardworking families. And we are the official labor union that represents cannabis workers from seed to sale, both medical and adult use under the guise of the AFL-CIO. We are also working in conjunction with our union brothers and sisters in the New Jersey building trades, such as IBEW, carpenters, laborers, steam fitters, which will be doing the retrofit and the build out of these facilities. The facts are clear that S21, the adult use bill, and the Jake Toney Act, which is the medical bill, has very good workers' rights conditions in it. We have some of the best labor laws in the country. In fact, Connecticut and Virginia have both taken our labor law out of New Jersey. So that's because it creates good union jobs, jobs with living wages, sick time, vacation time, paternity leave, healthcare, dental, vision, retirement, training, and education. I also want you to understand that we represent the current facilities here in New Jersey, and these workers are very educated, degrees in botany, horticulture, chemistry. We even have pharmacists that work in the retail facilities. So no different than walking into a Rite Aid or CVS. But in fact, I'll take it one step further. These facilities are more protected and have more security than a CVS, than a Rite Aid, than even a bank. In fact, under state law, the cameras go directly to the Department of Health and to the state police. I know no other facility in Northfield that has that type of protection. In fact, on top of that, most of the facilities hire retired police officers. Our union facilities have all retired police officers. So we take union members that were trained by taxpayers and are now being used in the private sector. And who better than to protect our patients and consumers and residents than retired police officers? It also creates these good jobs. I want to make it clear too that, you know, there's many studies. In fact, there's many organizations that are major health officials that support medical cannabis. In fact, many labor unions are working with medical professionals because if you look at the building trade, those folks get injured a lot and they end up on opioids. 3 out of 5 people that end up on opioids, they go to other types of hard drugs, start from the doctor's prescription. Cannabis is actually an exit drug and is used for opioid abuse here in New Jersey. So it's actually a gateway out of the drug problem. There are many veterans that are fighting on the federal level for the VA to cover medical cannabis because of the prescription drugs such as Zoloft and other things that people get on and end up committing suicide. So there's a lot of argument here based on fear and not based on facts. In fact, I'll take another step further for you. If the council and mayor would like to go on a tour of the Garden State Dispensary, which is vertically integrated, seed to sale, you can see the whole process for yourself on top of that. The only thing that I would like to add in closing is that we support an opt-in ordinance. We support the good jobs that will be created, specifically from Stockton University, which has a cannabis program who we are working with, young professionals who become part of the economic well-being of Northfield. I would like to suggest that you follow the city of Bayonne's, Summerdale, Eatontown, and other townships. Montclair has also done this, that they put a merit-based application system. That way you can control who comes in, because you do want a good neighbor. You do want an employer who's going to come in and create good jobs. And we are working with that facility in Pleasantville as well. That's actually Ianthus MPX. The one speaker said it was Curaleaf. It's Ianthus MPX. And Mr. Di Natale is going to be a great employer when he wins the license. So on top of it, but the city of Bayonne looks at things such as labor standards. So if they fought workers' rights in Illinois, they're going to fight workers here in Northfield. If they polluted in Colorado, environmental standards, you should know those things. Security standards, who are they going to hire? Are they going to hire retired police officers? You know, and local ownership. That's really an important part of this too, because there's lots of hardworking people in Northfield, working class people who have the skills and ability to do this. And it's going to be hard to compete with the big Canadian firms if you don't have some type of merit-based application system. So I hope that you'll follow that that leadership. I on record want to thank the Honorable Councilwoman Madden for taking the time to not only read my email, but call me and to talk about making sure that equity and workers' rights and community and patient protections are part of those standards. And I want to thank her on the record. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we also have Mr. Jeff King. Mr. King, are you there?
Hi.
State your name and address.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. You're going to need to state your name and address for the record, please.
Very good. Thank you kindly. Jeffrey King, 24 Elizabeth Parkway, Eatontown. I would like to ask you to please support allowing cannabis business in your community. I can say that I live in Eatontown and we are home to a dispensary that is fully functional. And as Mr. Giordano stated, it is an excellent asset to our community. It's good jobs, it's access to medicine. It was a rundown site that was really blighted, and now it's first-class rateable. And our community, this facility opened last year during the pandemic, and there's been no regrets from our council and mayor. And the proof of that is that we did pass an ordinance in this community to allow for more expanded cannabis businesses now for adult use. And I'm confident in the direction that this council has taken my community, and I would offer up the Eatontown ordinance as Mr. Giordano did as an example for your community or any community. Bayonne's good too. I've studied some of the other ones, so I would urge you to please follow in the footsteps of these progressive communities that are taking this opportunity and making the most of it. I agree with what Mr. Giordano has been saying. It makes sense that if you give your community a chance, something local will flourish and people that you may know will be successful, as opposed to if we hesitate and just allow some of the big operations that are not local. That might be good, but it might not be as good as what you can do. So, I mean, I think that the medical efficacy is without a doubt. So that should be a priority of having a good dispensary for people who are in need of the medicine, whether they buy it on the adult market or they are full-on patients. If you keep them in mind, the AARP endorses medical cannabis, the American Legion endorses it. So to completely ban it from the community would be hurtful to the people who are sick and suffering at a minimum, let alone the rest of the adults that did overwhelmingly affirm that we want cannabis in New Jersey and we want it in our communities. And if you decide to ban it, then I think you should at the same time pass a resolution urging support for home growing rights, because that was denied by the governor and the leadership, even though we affirmed that we wanted legal cannabis. So we're suffering with bans and we don't have home growing. That's a sore spot. So you could help with that. Even if you do ban, you could still articulate that you believe in the people's sovereign right and that their vote matters. So I appreciate you allowing me to speak and having a chance to share my opinion. Please just be compassionate and be progressive, and don't be afraid, because this is working. We know, we can see it in the other states. It's a successful thing for a community to host. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who is participating via Zoom who would like to make a public comment for the record? If you do, please raise your hand. And no one.
Anyone else here wishing to speak? Seeing no one, the public session is now closed. Do I have a motion to adjourn the work session?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Who
Yeah, we'll reconvene.
moved and seconded, please?
Notaro and us,
Thank you.
I think. No, it doesn't matter. No, it was Dave and it was Paul.
Need more time.
For those participating via Zoom, the workshop portion of the meeting has ended. I'm going to be pausing the recording and the video, and as soon as we resume, both will be turned back on. It should be shortly. I would say no more than 5 minutes. Chris, you're going to read verbatim the change, right? Mhm.
I did.
You did? Okay. Good evening. This is the regular meeting for Northfield City Council, August 10th of 2021. This meeting was properly advertised in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231 in the Press of Atlantic City on January 9th of this year. As you know, in late May, Governor Murphy issued Executive Order 242 related to COVID-19 and which eased restrictions on face coverings in indoor spaces under certain conditions. The order permits employers to expose stricter requirements regarding face coverings in indoor settings, which in the best interest of our employees and visitors, the City of Northfield opted to do in May and continues to do. Based on CDC guidelines, the City of Northfield continues to require face coverings and social distancing in our indoor public spaces, and visitors are made aware of this decision with signs at the entrances to the building. Due to continued social distancing requirements, there are limited seats for in-person attendance by members of the public this evening. This meeting is also being presented simultaneously as a remote public meeting live streamed using Zoom conferencing service and in accordance with the governor's executive orders and the Open Public Meetings Act. Zoom meeting participants can dial in by telephone and listen to the proceedings, or they can access the meeting using a web browser and be able to view and listen. Instructions on how members of the public could reserve one of the limited seats, as well as how they can access Zoom, have been made available on the municipal website and were published in the Press of Atlantic City. The full text of the meeting notice has been posted at the entrances to the municipal building and includes Zoom instructions, information on where to find the meeting agenda and relevant documents, as well as instructions on how members of the public could submit comments in advance of tonight's meeting. For those participating via Zoom, all participants will be muted upon entry to the meeting. Web browser participants will not be able to share their screens or see the camera view of anyone other than the host, which is the City of Northfield. Zoom participants wishing to exercise their right to participate during the public comment portion of the meeting should wait until the specific announcement is made to open the public comment period. At this time, one by one, any telephone users will be asked to identify themselves and will be unmuted to permit commentaries. For web browser participants, comments or questions may be submitted via the chat function, but will not be acknowledged outside of the designated public comment portion of the meeting. Chat users must also provide his or her name and address for the record in order to be heard. Any written comments submitted in advance would be read aloud and addressed during the public comment portion of the meeting, and this evening there were none. May I have a flag salute led by Mayor Chow, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Please be seated.
May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Deweese?
Here.
Mrs. Madden?
Here.
Mr. Notaro?
Here.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Rutz?
Here.
Mr. Palestina?
Here,
And Mr. Chow.
Here.
Mr. President?
thank you. Approval of the minutes?
Make a motion to approve of the minutes, July 13th, 2021. The posted to the council will file it.
A second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor's report.
Thank you, Council President. Unfortunately, I just saw Shannon, she just left. August, I have my final recycle bin contests. I have one every year for July and August. So when I see her tomorrow, I'll pull out the winner for the August and I'll report it at the end. But it's been a very good program that I initiated, that I voluntarily purchased the recycle bins to try to encourage recycling. And as you know, from the ACUA, we're one of the top recycle communities within Atlantic County. So bravo to everyone who participates on that. I'm happy to report that I've gotten some final news that the new bus shelter that was going to be at Oakcrest and Shore Road, the county has submitted the necessary paperwork to New Jersey Transit, and so hopefully that will be forthcoming before the year's end. I'm also happy to report that I received a report from Chief Newman that under the State of New Jersey Department of Law and Public Safety Office of the Attorney General, this is a body worn camera grant program that the city of Northfield has been awarded approximately $48,912 to purchase body cams and necessary equipment to supplement that for our police department. So kudos to Chief Newman and his department for continuing to look into the program itself, and I know it's been very successful, and also offers the necessary transparency that we solicit within our department. As Councilman Smith pointed out, tomorrow in Hamilton Township at the municipal building, the county, they are hosting a meeting at the county for the county court. And so we'll be talking some more finer details. Unfortunately, we didn't get the 10 or 12 municipalities at this time, but the county feels at this point that moving forward that we do have enough. Now that we have sufficient numbers, or at least have met some minimum, we'll be able to, or I should say Atlantic County will be able to present much firmer numbers, financial numbers, because at this point it was so vacillating, we didn't know who was coming and who was not going and so forth. So we're getting down to the nitty gritty in terms of, as Councilman Smith pointed out, the committees that will be formed or the suggestions and who will play a role within those communities or committees, and they're moving forward. So things look good. We have the support from many communities as well as the legislators, and I thank them very much. We did hear some comments with regards to businesses vacating along Tilton Road and so forth. And that is the case. I mean, certainly we all are aware of the problems of the COVID problems and associated with that so far. But I will say this, that in the past 2 months, we have had over 12 new businesses or entities in Northfield or coming to Northfield. So I'm very happy in that we have people, we have businesses and organizations who are still interested in coming into Northfield. I think Northfield provides a very centralized and ideal town for businesses to prosper and develop. And I know, and I will just make this note here, and I don't want to belabor it. When Mr. Howe pointed out, what do we as city council members do to promote businesses? Well, or in terms of addressing our taxes, you know, we have certain limitations. There's a big pie that we all look at, and we all address it in different entities and stuff. And let me give you just real quick. We have members of the council who serve on the liaison to our mainland regional high school and to our Northfield Community School. This brings in people. This brings in business. People who want quality schools. With their input, it provides some form of understanding as far as how they convey to city council as well as to these boards what we're looking for. Councilman Utz and I, and also Mayor Perry or Councilman Perry, we've served on the planning board, and you know we are looking for businesses and organizations to come into Northfield, but we're also looking for the quality businesses and organizations. And those are the things that help to develop the city in some ways that help to address taxes and also the community development. You know, we all do, and Councilman Notaro, we've talked together about the economic committee he serves on. You know, it's not something that we can do everything, but as these individuals, and I don't want to miss out any other council persons, in these individuals, as we as an entity itself, we pick at these little different things that in a bigger picture helps to develop our community and helps to draw businesses and organizations in our way of trying to address these concerns that Mr. Howe and others have addressed. So I just want to point out kudos to everyone on this council. You know, we don't get the recognition, and a lot of people unfortunately don't understand or know what we do behind the scenes, but you know, we do a lot in terms of quality. We may have differences, but the point of the matter is that we're all here to develop our city and bring out the quality that people within our community, as well as the business community, want. And so, as I said, kudos to everyone here. I also want to announce that the owner of the McDonald's in Northfield has graciously donate or will donate free ice cream cones. This is the program that we have developed along with Chief Newman to support and reward those individuals or children who practice good bicycle and policies and rules and so forth. And this is something that works in conjunction in lieu of our National Night Out. As all of you know, the police department will be hosting a rodeo bike. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but these things help bring in not only understanding and knowledge, but also a small token of rewards to those individuals. So I want to thank the owner of McDonald's for again supporting this program. I think this is like the 4th year that he has done that. And so again, thank you very much to this business in that respect there. I believe that is all that one other comment that I just want to make. Regarding the comments and suggestions that were made or directed to me, I hold no malice or anything like that. This is America and we are entitled to our opinions. I will just simply say thank you for your comments and your concerns, whether I agree or disagree, but I just want to say thank you very much. So that's my report, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. Engineers report.
Thank you, Council President. I sent my report out last Friday, on the 10th. On the municipal parking lot paving and the ADA upgrade we did. We have the final payment recommendation for DD Construction, the contractor. He provided us with all the documents. We have the bond, we have all the paperwork needed. So this project is finished. We have maintenance bond for 3 years for any issues that arise between now and then. The asphalt, the paving for the parking lot for the library and the municipal building, there's a change order. One of the reasons the price went up is the fuel and asphalt price adjustment. Due to the cost of fuel, the price went up almost $5,000 just to see the 2 factors. These adjustments they work sometimes to our benefit, sometimes they work against us. On a few of the previous projects, we ended up saving a lot of money because the fuel prices went down, because, from when we ordered the contract for the paving was done, the price went up. The library, we had a situation that when the contractor removed all of the bumper stops, the majority of them were cracked or broken, so we had to get it replaced. And the last item that increased the cost was the back of the old parking lot. We did not, on our plan, show that there's an existing asphalt curtain. We did not show that to be adjusted, but apparently that when they were doing the work and the resident behind the municipal building was complaining that the asphalt is not high enough to hold the water back. So we ended up replacing that and raising it. Since then, we haven't heard any complaints from the resident. That solved all the problems that's happening. So that's the reason we have a change order for this. Just to give you an idea what the change order was. Excuse me one second. The original 121.7, the change order came up at $16,203. Substantial change order, but things have to get done to get the job done properly. And safety for the library, so we don't have an issue with people parking, because we need the bumper stops so they don't run into the on the the 2020 local road program, all paving has been completed as of yesterday. They fixed that drain problem that we had on Wabash, everything is paved. We have a lot of punch list items that cleanups, they have restoration, that's some driveways that have to install. And they have a couple more railroad ties that have to be put down, so that is on them. And also, when I spoke with the contractor, as you recall, we have an issue on Hilton and Roosevelt. That area that's settled because we had a break in one of our sewer lines. That really settled about 3 inches. And now between the county and all the public works, we've been putting coal patches. See a big patch of asphalt in the middle of the road and it's level. So I asked the contractor to give us a price to do this area because we have to get it done. It's our responsibility and the county's been waiting for it for a long time. He came in with 10,800. That number includes safety. He has to raise also the casting, not only repave it. He has to stay lane and a half in width and about 30 feet in length. So it's a big area, has to be repaved. And the casting for the manhole has to be raised because it's sunk. So he has to do that like 4 o'clock in the morning to get it done. That includes all traffic control. But we might request the assistance from the police for a few hours to have a cop just like 4 o'clock in the morning, just to get it in case we have. So I'll be discussing that with I asked the chief police, he said just let him know in advance and go make arrangements for that. That has to get done. The county's been patient with us this almost a year and a half since that thing happened. So this will take.
It's done sinking, I guess? Is it done?
Oh, yeah, no, because what happens, there's a 8-inch line that comes from Friendly, and that is a drop connection, but apparently that line beyond the manhole, when you look in the manhole, you couldn't see it. That was separated, so all the flow was coming in, instead of going into the manhole, was going behind the manhole, and that's what caused the septic. So that's done.
Okay.
We had split lines about 4 months ago, so we took care of that issue.
Mr. Nasser, the 10,000 will be on the next agenda resolution?
I guess, I don't know how we're gonna do this, that's what, I'll let council,
That's going to need to be approved by resolution?
or we can make a change order to the road program, local road program, because the final change order.
But that's, well, if it's changing the specs, the council still needs to vote on that.
Okay, it's changing the scope because it's something we have talked about that, having that part of the job, so.
It's not an issue, you just need to vote, that's all. I mean, has to be reduced to writing.
Okay. We can't vote, we have to vote the next meeting?
It needs to be reduced to writing in the form of a resolution.
Okay.
Is the 31st okay for that?
I was hoping to get it done before that, but I think it's,
You want to recess and draft a resolution?
Can
You need to vote on it.
This one? That's a different.
Do we have certification of funds?
I spoke with, yeah, verbally I did. I got that, I think I spoke with Councilman Louise. Dawn responded that we have the funds for it. I did not have that. You know.
What'd you say, 31st? Yeah.
You pass it with the contingency of $100,000.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll have to recess and, can we recess and write that resolution contingent upon the funds being certified and available? Do you have an exact number, or is it 10,008?
I don't have the number. It's $10,743.86. I share that with Councilman Perry, Councilman.
And who's the vendor?
It's South State.
Okay.
The same contractor is doing our local work program.
Because that'll just need to be in the resolution that we're authorizing South State.
Okay.
Fay Avenue improvement, which is our municipal aid for 2020. We had a walkthrough with the NJDOT representative and found that the project is substantially completed. They requested some documents from our office, a couple of punch list items. We provided that to the contractor, and we are going to get our punch list item plus the state to get them done together. So only for the contractor, we need a starting date for that, for the punch list items. For the construction of merit, which is our municipal aid 2021, we sent a package to the NJDOT for their concerns with to go out to bid. I haven't heard back from them yet. So the minute that comes back, we'll be able to advertise the project and go out to bid. The last thing is the slip lining project. Kerry discussed that briefly. We had a pre-construction meeting with the contractor, Public Works was there, and the chief see what the from the police department. We spoke about the logistics of the project. We have discussed how to deal with it, and the contractor was asking to have a representative from Public Works to be present with them when he opens our system. There's two components. One of them is we have to plug the system so they can do the work. So basically, that section they're working with, we cannot have any flow. So they will plug upstream for the system certified. That could happen because it's no problem with that up to a certain point. Public Works feels that the flow is getting too high. For the contractor, he has the equipment to bypass it. He will put the bypass pump, push the water somewhere else. So it would not be an issue, but from Public Works to be present with the contractor and was to be intimate with the system. Otherwise, I had to have the inspector from my office, but we're not really qualified to do these things. So we discussed that I discussed that with Quinn, and I think he's going to come back with certain ideas. Some of the work is going to be done at night, especially along Pilgrim Road. That would be 2 or 3, maybe 2 nights or 3 nights, that would be all night work from 7 to 7 because the flow is less, the traffic is less, so they're able to do the work. We'll come back.
Do you remember that Secretary of Health and Human Services named Tom Price?
Sorry, someone just unmuted themselves. I muted them back.
All right, so. I was looking to see because you see the massive entity was talking.
It sounded like me.
Yeah, it did. It did.
I checked, it wasn't.
The contract is started the project the first week in September. So I'm going to send it to notice to proceed September 4th, and we'll get the. So by next meeting, I'll have more information to council on where we are with the project, and I think we're already contacted the clerk's office the extra time he needs for his employees, so we'll move it on that. That's my report.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
I looked at some of the street paving projects, and in these bids, do we account for some, for some, not so much sidewalks, but curbing and aprons?
We do.
Okay.
One of the reasons is you change the grade of the road, and it's not fair for the homeowner to make them change the driveway, because we changed the pitch of the road. So that's something we do. If we change it drastically, we end up replacing the curb and sidewalk. So it all depends.
Depends on the situation.
Right, if the contractor is driving and he busts the sidewalk, I can't ask the homeowner to replace it, so it becomes part of our numbers. So we put in extra sidewalk in case we damage something, so we have to replace it.
In my travels, I saw a lot of problems with driveway, not so much driveways, but aprons, curbs, manholes, July, things, water shutoffs that were crooked and
You mean the new ones?
in certain, no, when the new project's coming up.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just.
Yeah, all the irons get readjusted,
Mhm.
regardless, because we are milling the road, so we break a piece of curb, we have to replace it. If we do, but sometimes we have to replace other people's driveways because we are causing some issues.
Right, or changing grades.
Yeah, because our design has to change, because the last thing you want to do is redo the project and keep the water bubble. So we changed the gradient, the slopes of the gutter lines, so we fix that. That's all we're saying.
But that doesn't necessarily mean just because curb is deteriorated, that will be replaced.
Depending on how badly they are. I mean,
No,
we
we
No.
don't put it in-
we don't replace people, if the curve does not, if the grade does not change, I don't replace
You
the
don't
curve.
replace them.
No,
Okay.
it's the homeowner's responsibility. And I would found curb, sidewalk, apron, is homeowner's.
If they're unlevel or tweaked, that's still.
That's on them. Yeah. And one other thing I forgot to mention on our new local road program, I saw that Madison Court is really in bad shape, and I'm doing work across the street, so I added that to the list. This, we never discussed that before. This one. This whole cul-de-sac has, you can see the grass growing through the cracks, you can see patches, so I was doing work across the street, so it'll be easier for the contractors to move from one side, crossing the road, and get that done. So we added that to the road program.
Is there an update on that Wabash patch?
It's done.
Oh, it is done, they patched it.
It's done. The inlet was changed, replaced, and it was paid. Yesterday was paid. So it's all done. You're welcome.
Councilman Perry?
Just the stop bars on the Wabash and Northfield.
Yeah, the stop bar is right, the line striping, that's one of the, one of the places.
I complained that somebody ran it the other day. It's like a free for all there.
Yeah, he was in contact trying to get the contractor, and he sent me a request for payment. I said, I don't think so until we get all these punch list items. We'll figure it out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open the meeting to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on any topic, please ask that you observe a 5-minute limit per speaker. No one here.
No one in Zoom?
And no one in Zoom. Seeing no one, the public session is now closed. Do we need a recess? We're going to take a brief recess to prepare the resolution for the payment of that construction.
Can you motion and second that?
Do I have a motion to adjourn and take a recess?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Motion to recess.
motion to recess. Thank you. Are you still second? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Those are to Louise.
Thank you.
I'll be back in an hour, folks.
Chris, do you need me?
Yeah.
Hold on one second, Barb. Just announce that we're back.
We're back in session. And yes, we'll ask the solicitor to please read the new resolution into the record, number 149.
Thank you. Resolution 149, 2021 is a work change order number 1, final 2020 local road paving program. For the record, we're reading this into the record. It was just created. Whereas pursuant to resolution council number 185-2020, the city of Northfield did award a contract for the project known as the 2020 local road paving program and did enter into a contract with South State Inc. for the amount of $527,756. And whereas during the performance of this project, the scope of the project was modified to include a repair of the portion of the intersection of Tilton Road and Roosevelt Avenue with the work described attached here too as Exhibit A. Whereas the net effect of these changes is a total increase in the contract price of $10,743.86, which is equal to 2%. Now therefore be it resolved that the contract for the 2020 local paving program is hereby amended from $527,756 to $538,499.86. I, Mary Canisi, municipal clerk of the city of Northfield, do hereby certify that the foregoing resolution was adopted at a regular meeting of the common council of the city of Northfield held this 10th day of August 2021. And Mr. Council President, I also have a minor revision to ordinance number 9 before that's moved. The minor revision in the now therefore be it ordained paragraph that says, adds the words, which shall include the obligation that the city of Northfield pay Mr. and Mrs. Schwenker attorney's fees not to exceed $1,500. And so that's modified for the record as well.
Thank you. On the resolutions, all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and having been reviewed by council will be enacted by one motion. Any item may be removed by the from the consent agenda at the request of any council member, and if so removed, will be treated as a separate matter. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by certification of availability of funds.
That resolution needs to be made subject to the availability of funds.
Yes.
Just handwrite it.
Yep. There we go. We're just at a whereas that says, whereas this resolution is subject to the availability, a certification of the availability of funds from the chief financial officer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. That said, resolutions 147 and 148 will not be in this night in the consent agenda. 149 would be added into it. Is there any resolution any council member would like pulled from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolutions 129, 2021 through 146, 2021, and 149, 2021. The consent agenda. Sorry.
Second.
Roll call? Or no, do we
You
can?
can do all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'd like to make the motion to adopt the consent agenda for resolutions 129, 2021 through 146, 2021, and 149, 2021.
Second.
Roll call.
Council President.
Yes.
I just have a question on the resolution for 145. That's the application for the fireworks. Mary, is there a time that they posted when the fireworks would be commencing?
It's not in the resolution.
Do we know what time it would be commencing?
I'm going to look in the resolution.
Okay.
Hang on just a sec.
I couldn't find it, but maybe. The only reason why I bring that up, Council President, is I've had in the past complaints or concerns about the timing and, you know, the effects.
No, it's not in
of
here.
the
I believe they're
sounds
both
with
between
dogs
9 and 10.
Individuals. I'm sorry, what was that, Mary?
It's not in there, but I believe they're both starting at 9 and they'll be over, between 9 and 10 is the window, but they're short.
Okay, thank you.
And we've worked with, and we've had that
Yeah.
vendor before and they're aware of our
Right.
concerns. Any other questions? Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Deweese,
Yes.
Mrs. Madden,
Yes.
Mr. Notaro,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Utz,
Yes.
Mr. Palestina,
Yes.
Motion carries for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Ordinance 7.
I'd like to make the necessary motion to adopt for final consideration ordinance 7.
No. We're going to do public hearings first. We're not going to,
We're not going to bring them forward first. We'll just do the public sessions.
well, if you do that, you're going to have a motion and a second on the floor for two things at the same time.
Okay. Okay, then, yeah, since we do have two ordinances, what we'll do at this point is we'll do the open public. We'll do open both ordinances to the public. First, we'll open ordinance number 7 to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak regarding the ordinance at hand, number 7, 2021, you may speak on that and that topic alone.
So ordinance 7 is an ordinance by the city of Northfield and the county of Atlantic, New Jersey, permitting the operation of certain classes of cannabis business within the geographical boundaries. And this is as amended. And the public hearing is now open. We have one person. Hold on just a sec.
Okay.
We have Mr. King, can you hear me?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you're going to need to state your name and address again for the record, please.
Sure thing. Jeffrey King, 24 Elizabeth Parkway, Eatontown. Thank you very kindly for allowing me to speak again on this topic. Really want to urge you to please support the ordinance that would allow for cannabis businesses in the community. It's a good opportunity and it's an asset. So I think I already kind of made clear my feelings and that I think you should move forward. So I appreciate very much allowing me to reiterate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is no one else who
Okay.
is wishing to speak.
Okay, seeing no one else wishing to speak, we will close the public session on ordinance 7. We'll now open the public session for ordinance 8, the prohibition of cannabis. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on that topic and that topic alone may do so at this time.
So ordinance 8 is an ordinance in the city of Northfield, county of Atlantic, state of New Jersey, prohibiting the operation of any class of cannabis businesses within the Northfield geographical boundaries and adding section 215, 151B 16 of the city of Northfield Municipal Code. And we do have, looks like Mr. King again.
Good evening, Jeffrey King, 24 Elizabeth Parkway, Eatontown. Appreciate allowing me to speak again, but it is another ordinance, and I just would feel remiss if I did not please ask you to oppose this, table this. Do not vote in favor of prohibition. That would be doubling down on a mistake that we've made for many decades, and that has cost us dearly with people's health and liberty. It's based on racism and propaganda and misinformation. And I think that it would be a mistake to continue that, doubling down on something that we've been failing on. I think the drug war is ending and it is time for drug peace. So thank you very kindly for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Okay, I don't believe we have anyone else wishing to speak.
Okay.
To officially close it.
Okay, we'll now close the public session on ordinance 8.
Now you'll motion.
Can I speak to this? At what point can I make a statement?
After it's, each one's moved and seconded, then council will comment.
Okay. Can we have both open?
You can, well,
Yeah.
you can do
Let's
whatever
move,
you want, but
I'm sorry, I ask that we have a motion for ordinance 8.
What about
We'll do
ordinance
that
7?
first.
I'll make a necessary motion to adopt ordinance 8, 2021, to be read by title only.
Second.
Okay, so we've already read the title, and this is the second reading. We've just concluded the public hearing, and this vote is for final consideration. If it is approved, it will be published a final time in the Press of Atlantic City on August 14th. Since introduction, the full ordinance has been posted in the lobby of City Hall as well as on the municipal website. Any member of the public who requested a copy of the ordinance was provided with one free of charge in my office.
Okay, any comments from council?
Why would you take that?
Yeah, why aren't you doing ordinance 7 first?
If this doesn't go through, then we will.
Well, why
we'll go
not do
there.
the 7 first?
That's what I thought it would.
You opened it up for public meeting, but you didn't finish it with the.
You didn't finish 7.
I think it's protocol, best practice of this.
Well, we could do 7 and discuss it and the reasons either way.
Well, we're gonna, because if 8 doesn't,
Yeah, what's going on here?
It doesn't matter, Tom. We can do 7. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I guess it doesn't, does
You can
it?
do whatever you want. It doesn't
yeah,
matter.
I mean, if you started with 7 and you opened up both hearings at the same time, I've never seen that.
No,
before in all my
that's-
time being on this council. And, you know, you're jumping back and forth, you have two ordinances, I think that you should stick with the order of the agenda. I mean, that's just my feeling is.
Yeah, 7 was already passed once.
okay,
and
very
then-
well.
I just want to clarify one thing. If we had the public hearing on 7 and then voted
Yeah,
and it passed, the public hearing on 8 never would have been held. That's why we did both public hearings before it was voted.
ordinances to begin with.
Right. I don't, that was
Well,
what,
Why, I don't understand why.
Well, I guess this is our discussion anyway, but
Yes, if it goes up and down and fails.
Yeah.
You know, that ordinance 7 was.
we can vote in that order. That's fine.
Well, no, I think there is a legal reason to have both ordinances on the record, because if there's not an ordinance
I didn't
prohibiting.
say that. I said
Okay,
7 stands alone. It either makes or breaks the deal. And why jumping back to 8?
But it-
yeah, and 7 was passed once, and then it was
No, it
changed
wasn't.
again.
It was never passed. It was read on
It was
first
read and-
reading. If
Yes.
7 does not, if 7 is not successful and we stop there, the state could take the position that we did nothing to prohibit it, and therefore you're stuck with the 5-year
I'm not
moratorium
saying
issue that
that,
we
but
discussed.
it's 8
Don't say
also.
stuff.
I'm just saying,
Okay.
just do it in the right order.
I thought you were questioning why there were 2.
No,
Okay,
no, I mean,
8 is just a wait and see ordinance to see what happens with the state. It could be two.
Well, it's more than that.
they're
It's
they're
more than
supposed to
that.
have something published by August 21st,
The deadline.
I feel. that-
which then would give us time to, we still have 7. If 7 is still what we want to do, we would still be able to we would still be able to have 7 on the 31st at our next meeting. If the state comes through with what they're supposed to do. That's all. I've made that clear, and that's my main concern is questioning my confidence in what will be in that law, since it took us, that's why we started late, is because the people involved in writing the law couldn't tell us the opt-in. At the last minute, we were told that the opt-in was going to take 18 to 24 months. That is not the case. The opt-in is anytime we decide to opt in. There's no waiting. But they couldn't tell us that, so that just gives me even less confidence in going forward. That's all. And as I said, my feelings on this prohibition is to give us time to make sure that our ordinance covers all of our bases.
We've had people for and against it, and there's some passionate people tonight that were against it. And, you know, we're jumping in the barrel and going over the fall, it's just, you know, we could wait a few weeks, maybe a month, and put this, put 7.
We did this already last month. We waited, we did this 2 months ago, and
But we
then you're
still
saying,
don't know
wait
the
another
law.
month, and now you're saying, wait another month.
No one's gotten licenses, no one's gotten anything going, there's no business.
We still do not know the law.
It's still,
We're still voting on something blindly.
it's,
While we have certain protections that we believe we put into our ordinance, we don't know what else, we don't know what we might be missing. We don't know where we might have, and that is my concern. And I can say it so many times. The other thing is the revenue may or may not be, I mean, if it is, to get to $40,000 in revenue, for example, one of those shops would have, or however many we have, and would have to sell $450 worth of cannabis every hour for 12 hours a day for 365 days a year. Will get us to $40,000.
So you think that
That should be simple.
it's irrelevant?
I tell you.
Okay.
You run the risk, and maybe it's a risk you're willing to take, of businesses going elsewhere. I
Yeah.
mean, if
Yeah.
you're either showing a welcoming community and an open business district, we're trying to improve our ratables, we're trying to create jobs, we're trying to create revenue for the city. If the ordinance comes out and people scramble and we do not have an ordinance in place to allow.
They'll go
someone that
elsewhere.
Zoning is already approved an area for cannabis.
Right.
And we don't have that available, and the dollars go elsewhere, you'll have to answer to the taxpayers about how you missed out on, my guess, is more than $40,000. That's based on $1 million worth of
Yeah.
sales.
That's
think
$2
the
million.
first year, it's like the casinos when they first.
It's $2 million.
Okay, right. I think the casinos, when they first opened, there was lines at the door. I think when cannabis shops first opened, because there will probably be a limited number of licenses, I'm sure it will do very well with that business. Indeed, it will also, if Tilton Road, the Golden Mile, is one of the places that it's located, drive traffic to other businesses in the area, restaurants, movie theaters, and who knows what other auxiliary businesses may open up as a result.
And you heard from
You know,
Mr.
you
Giordano
can't
about
really
the jobs that it
that's fine.
creates.
And maybe it'll be fine, but
I don't think
I think you're running a risk.
I really don't think that we have much of a risk for 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month. I don't think that's a big risk. I really don't.
Why don't you think that's a
These
risk?
Licenses being passed out
Just
already.
recently?
No, it'll happen quickly though.
I'm sure it will, but it's.
They sent it to me today and I forgot.
So what's going to happen when you find out that we're behind the 8 ball?
I don't think we are. I think we have this in place.
Holy crap.
And we can put it on the agenda at any time.
I think, Dave, what is the potential
Well, excuse me.
fire that the state could come up with?
Well,
Yeah, what
the
is the
planning board, the
boogeyman
planning board,
mentality?
It's gonna cause you to,
the planning board has recommended we adopt 8.
no, they have not. I was on the planning board meeting. They certainly
August
did not.
10th, they sent a letter to, August
August
10th, they sent a letter that we received. So that's today.
Dr. Levitt, what was that letter?
That's today. Today's August 10th.
I received it this afternoon.
I will
forgot to
read the
forward it.
letter.
I'm sorry.
From who?
City of Northfield Ordinance
I'd like to see
821.
that letter.
They just, no, they discussed 8 and said, really, this isn't a matter for us because you can't zone what's not happening. And this was, and they ascertained that this ordinance was just sent to them as a courtesy to look it over, but there's no zoning for what's
All right.
not gonna happen.
Yeah, let me read it into the
They
record.
voted in favor.
Do you want me to just go
by
print it, or
majority,
are you gonna read it?
that-
6 to
that
3.
It should
You
be.
wanna print it?
I'm in favor for 7, but I'm more in favor of taking into consideration.
See, it says,
in our town-
I'll just read it, Mary. I'll read it.
and
I'll read it
giving
in. I'm
them a
sorry.
little bit more wait and see.
Here's
So then you're not in favor. You can't have it both ways.
city, I'm gonna read, this is a letter from, and Mary will forward it to everyone.
From who?
Mayor, timed out on. It's from the planning board.
Levitt?
It's from the Robin Atlas, the secretary on behalf of the planning board. City of Northfield, regarding City of Northfield ordinance number 8-2021, an ordinance by the City of Northfield in the County of Atlantic, New Jersey, prohibiting the operation of any class of cannabis businesses within its geographical boundaries and adding section 215-151B 16 of the City of Northfield Municipal Code. Dear Mayor and Council and City Council members, Dear Mayor Chow and City Council members, pursuant to NJSA 4055D64 and NJSA 4055D26, the above ordinance was referred to the City of Northfield Planning Board for review and to determine if it is consistent with the master plan of the City of Northfield. At the regular meeting of the City of Northfield Planning Board on August 5th, 2021. The board reviewed the above ordinance. After a lengthy discussion, the planning board voted 9-0 to recommend adoption of the above referenced ordinance. This review was mandated by city council to the planning board since it involves the land use ordinance and is now referred back to city council for second reading and final approval. Respectfully submitted on behalf of the Northfield Planning Board, Robin Atlas, Secretary.
I'm
That's a
sorry.
misinterpretation.
Absolutely. It's about
I can tell you that was
the
not
master
the
plan.
intent Of the majority of the planning.
Says
board.
nothing about.
It was that basically we have no business voting on a non-issue. You're not telling me.
Okay.
But getting back to.
It doesn't say
Mr.
anything
Vogt
about
here,
prohibiting it.
Okay.
I think, again, I don't know what the trepidation is. I don't know what the state would possibly come down with that would possibly impact the retail business. That has you also fearful, but I do think that you'd be surprised how quickly these licenses and this money will go elsewhere. And it will happen quickly. And again, you'll be the ones next year to have to answer your constituents why Eggleston Township got X amount of dollars, Pleasantville got X amount of dollars.
And our taxes go up.
And their commercial ratables are up and and jobs are created, although some of those might be Northfield residents, in an industry that's growing nationwide.
Yeah, you think.
It's, sure, maybe you can visit it, but I think that you may find that you end up shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, I don't understand this boogeyman mentality.
I can't imagine what. I mean, it's driven by the prohibition sentiment. I mean, that's what's driving the trepidation. It's nothing to do with anything actual that could possibly happen. I mean, what are we gonna say? Again, I can't imagine.
I'm basing it on
what?
Not having any information from them as to what they're going to approve.
Well, that's.
Our chief of police is recommending putting it off until we know what they have. They could put out the same thing they had in their first go through.
You heard this gentleman from Eden, Jeff King. He gave you a lot of very good points about
They have
how good it is.
That's a
You
medical
also heard from
marijuana.
Mr.
That's a medical
Giordano.
marijuana place.
There's many good points on both sides.
Absolutely. So what is this boogeyman mentality? Like, oh my God, we're so afraid. What's going to happen? What's the state going to do?
Can I just
told
jump
you.
in, Mr. President? I've obviously stated my point for everyone. I just want to continue along that line and put my 2 cents in and actually put in 2 cents of an expert. I've stated my opinion and we're talking about what could go wrong. There's a lot to go wrong for the youth of our town and our communities. But the citizens of New Jersey did vote to approve it. I spoke to a number of Northfield residents who, and Mr. Dooley, I'll thank Mr. Dooley who was here, who spoke to it. Not just Mr. Dooley, but others who said that they voted in favor of legalization, but they certainly would not vote in favor of having it in our town. So there's more people out there who feel that way as well, other than it's just the 70%. But I'm going to throw something out there, and this is a physician's opinion. And so I'm just going to read a little bit of this. It's an opinion piece from a Dr. Gregory Shangold, who is the president of the Connecticut State Medical Society. And in addition to Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, Delaware, issued a joint statement opposing legalization of recreational marijuana because there's not enough research proving it's safe. But I just want to read a few excerpts from this opinion piece, if I might. The Connecticut State Medical Society believes it must ensure that Connecticut policymakers and their constituents, our patients, are informed about the health and societal ramifications of public policies. One such issue is legalizing recreational marijuana, which the CSMS, the Connecticut State Medical Society, sees as a bad idea. Regrettably, this issue has been cast as a state budget matter. But to physicians, marijuana use is a public health matter. Marijuana has changed drastically over the last few decades. The potency of today's marijuana is much higher than the grass of the Woodstock era or the pot of the 1990s, and physicians nationwide have seen alarming data from states that have legalized recreational use. This is due to an ever-increasing percentage of tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, in marijuana, the drug's psychoactive ingredient, which jumped from an average of 4% in 1983 to between 17 and 28% in 2018, according to a study in Missouri Medicine. In recent years, the debate over recreational marijuana use has created the impression that cannabis is less harmful than it is. Words like recreational sound safe, yet cannabis use increases the risk of depression, suicide, psychosis, cognitive impairment, and worsened academic performance in youths. Since the state of Washington legalized the recreational use of marijuana, studies have shown that 23% of youths who committed suicide had marijuana in their systems, up from 14%. We have also seen reports of very young children accidentally ingesting edible marijuana products, such as brownies and chocolates, which can appear to be normal-looking treats. Teenage marijuana usage in Connecticut has remained at a relatively low and steady rate, hovering around 16%. However, the study also saw a 10% spike in usage from the 18 to 25 age group, with nearly half that group using marijuana in 2018. Legalizing marijuana recreational use will likely boost those numbers, as studies show that cannabis user disorder in young people has grown 25% in states that have legalized marijuana. Beyond public health, recreational marijuana is likely to throw Connecticut's recent youth driver safety initiatives into reverse, as happened in Washington, where the number of fatally injured drivers testing positive for marijuana doubled after legalizing recreational marijuana. Studies in medical journals show marijuana can impair an individual for up to 5 hours. And because of the properties of marijuana, which differ from alcohol, we do not have blood tests which reliably and legally measure the amount of marijuana in an impaired individual's system. We physicians base our opinions on science, data from peer-reviewed writings, observation, and patient interaction. That is why we believe Connecticut should not sacrifice the health and well-being of our youths for the unproven promise of increased revenues. The science and data show it's just not worth it. All right, it continues on. It kind of summarizes my views on it. It's not healthy for our children. You want to talk about savings and cost benefits. It's bad policy. It's called dope for a reason. It makes you more stupid. It's bad for your lungs. It's bad for your brain. It causes depression and suicide. All right. It is addictive. 1 in 10 become addicted to it. Studies have shown. All right. It's not good policy. The science, we talk about science a lot lately and everything in medical review. The science says it's bad. It's bad policy, and I will not support it in any form.
President?
Yes.
Mayor, well, thank you for that lengthy opinion, and that's what it is, an opinion. And how is prohibiting marijuana in Northfield, when it's legal at the next town over, going to change any of that? Marijuana is coming, just like liquor stores, and I guarantee you, liquor still, as you alluded to, kills way more people.
It's not about alcohol. We're not talking about alcohol. You're talking about marijuana. So do 2 wrongs make a right? Is that what you're saying?
I think you approved the liquor license.
Yeah, I did. It's legal.
So was marijuana.
And it was legal, right? And legalization of liquor stores was legal.
But, and you're right that marijuana is strong.
This is going to approving the dispensary, the facilities, whatever it is. All right?
But it doesn't change. I mean, marijuana will still get delivered to Northfield. And if you want to regulate it, you take it out the street and you put it into a.
I want to regulate it and not have it in Northfield. So you're right. I do want to regulate it.
But that's not going to change that.
Mr. Smith, do you drink alcohol?
Yes, I do.
And have you become addicted?
No.
Right. Most marijuana people use 10%. I think the
That's what's-
alcohol statistic is probably higher, and it certainly kills people and causes accidents.
Well, listen, if you want to introduce something about alcohol, then do that. We're not talking about marijuana here. It has negative.
Okay. All right, we're,
The prohibition ordinance is not, okay, you're reading into it a little bit too much.
No, it's got the votes to be where it's at. You got the votes.
It's not, we're not prohibiting it, right? We're just prolonging.
In business, as I said before, in business, there are no secrets, there's only head-starts. What you're gonna find is the businesses will go elsewhere.
Guys, we can't talk
Yes.
over each other.
And you'll miss this
Mr.
opportunity.
Palestina, can
Thank you.
But that's
call
fine.
upon
That's your
somebody to
choice.
speak and let them
Okay.
speak, and then the next person can go?
Thank you. You're done? Okay. Well, and the one thing, the one reason to have 8 and not 7 would be if 8, if we go forward with 7 and it fails, then we have to reintroduce and have a second reading. If you let me finish, I'll explain it to you. If we do 7 and it fails, okay? If we do 7 and it fails, we have to reintroduce and have a second reading. That's 2 meetings. If we then do 8 and it passes, then it passes. Then when we go back to 7, if we don't do 7 now, then then it only takes 1 meeting to get it back in. It's quicker. That's the other reason.
We don't have to get,
It gives us more ability to get it through faster once we're comfortable with what the law is. I have 0 comfort level from the state.
we have 2 sets of citizens that we have to think about, not just one. So I think this is the responsible thing to do, and we pump the brakes, and we wait, and we introduce 7 later.
So as the chairman of the Economic Development Committee, you're opposed.
I am not opposed to economic development of marijuana licensed businesses. No, I am not.
You know, there's
And
5
you
major.
don't put words in my
There's
mouth.
5 major businesses in town that are millions of dollars for sale right now on the internet. And, you know, this will promote jobs,
Of course.
businesses, commerce. I mean,
Absolutely.
as a business person, I look at it strictly as the business of government. Government approved this capability. Government regulates gaming, sports betting, everything. They're taking this illegal money out of the drug dealer, putting it in to us to be able to regulate it and get it into our inventory. I mean,
I couldn't agree with you more, but there's 2 sides to Northfield that.
you have the planning board to control what you want once you do regulate. Now, you know, you can have 1, you can have whatever you want to put in your land use ordinance. Basically, can be adjusted at that point. I mean, you know, I just don't know.
So we can supersede what the state comes out with if it's something that we don't like by our.
You can have 1 license, you can have.
If we,
You can regulate.
I think that's what he was just saying, no? I mean, is that?
You'd have to change your ordinance if you're adding a license limit.
but if
You can regulate
If we don't have-
how many licenses you will be able to get.
Right.
By land use.
Right.
The planning board and the city can regulate what is going to be in the town.
Right, but we didn't do that in this. We haven't.
Our ordinance,
I understand that. But
So-
you're saying you're putting out that facade that, you know, what the state's going to do. Once the state has already approved it, you can regulate our business in town through the planning board.
Can I ask a question as the newly appointed zoning officer? So this is not a conditional use, it's a permitted use. So if I have a storefront on Tilton Road, somewhere in the appropriate zone, vacant, and they used to sell candy, and now they want to sell pot, I have to grant that because it's permitted within the zoning. I don't know how I deny that if they come in tomorrow.
What's your point there?
I don't.
If it's approved by, if the regional commercial is approved, then the planning board and the city make an ordinance stating what you can and can't do.
Yep.
You have 1 license, if it's a candy store, they get it. If it's a pre-existing smoke shop and they're in that regional commercial and it's 1 license and they apply, they get it. It could be, a pre-existing condition already with a smoke shop already there. I mean, these are all things that the city has to do, it has to regulate.
What's an
it.
example of what the state could come up with that we would just say, oh, thank God we took that ordinance. That's what I would like to know. Is there something there? I mean, if there is,
The main one being,
we don't know.
we don't know, but the main one being what they had already put through. What they had,
Municipalities directly around us approved it. I mean, are going with it. So, I mean, they're a lot bigger than us and the opportunity to take.
many have prohibited it too. And as I said, seven can come back on the 31st. If the state gets their act, the state gets their act and gives us some knowledge so we know what we're voting on. I'm not comfortable voting on something I don't know.
Land use law, we can tailor it to the way we want it.
As a business person.
But anything we've missed in our ordinance that comes through in that state law is in for 5 years.
Why do you have this imaginary fear of something?
Barbara, how many times, I'm telling you because it already happened.
That's not true. If we allow it, that's what we allow. It's not, we're not locked in for 5 years. If we don't.
If there's something,
we don't do anything, we're locked in for 5 years.
if there's something we missed,
But I already issued a zoning permit under the current ordinance before the state's rules came out.
Charging a licensing fee of $10,000.
You can issue any license under current ordinance. There's no legislation on the land use that permits it.
If as a business person, if I'm looking up to open up a retail pot shop, I'm just gonna look for real estate in Hanover Township. I mean, I'm gonna be ready to go when that license, when they say go.
Unless you really want Tilton Road in Northfield and you
have to wait, you lose the chance for a license. You lose it.
Is a couple of weeks, a month going to?
No, because.
How do you say yes? How do you know? They're not even passing licenses out yet. They haven't even gotten their.
they don't even have the law yet.
So we're not behind the 8 ball.
We're still poised to pass it.
I'm not investing.
Businesses are,
Simple as that. I'm going where I'm going.
Well, that's you.
All right. Well, I think we're,
Any business who's looking to cite a business.
yeah, one at a time, please. I think we're just going in a circle. So unless someone has something new to add,
Let's do this.
someone has something new to add. And
Quite honestly, I'm not prepared to vote on anything really.
It really wasn't Barbara decided. This was something, this was hard for me. It really was, because I don't really mind this. So, but I also look at other people in the town and they are residents of the town and they have an opinion too, and they don't like it. I've heard it from both sides.
That they want the revenue.
They want it.
They're not vocal, because the first time
I
the
know.
council voted on it, voted 6-2 in favor. They thought.
I talk to a lot of people.
Okay.
I know what people want.
Okay.
I mean, I hear it from both ends. Just
And
saying, this is.
as I said, my feeling on prohibiting it is to pump the brakes. And as I said, for transparency, I will move, I'm asking for a motion on 8. We're going out of order because I'd like to keep 7 preserved and able to come back in one meeting and rather than 2.
So we're not behind the 8 ball. Correct?
I don't think so.
Well, it was 2
You
meetings.
have to change the prohibition ordinance in order to get to it.
No, because
What do you know? If the law prohibiting it, you have.
7 would then permit it and supersede 8.
You would still have the law in the books prohibiting it. You would have to rescind 8 first before you would go back to 7.
Correct.
No way.
No.
Already passed the first reading one.
There's typically a provision in ordinance that says anything contrary to what's adopted in the current ordinance is repealed. I would have no problem if you went back to 7, adding a line that says ordinance 8 is repealed in its entirety. It's a one-line change. So there's 2 ways you could attack that, or if you're not comfortable with that process, you just reintroduce it.
That's what I would do. I would run 7 and then just go move on to 8. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Council President, your question. That's good.
I say no. We'll move on with 8. And preserve 7, and we can add the languages, we can add the language of 7 so that it's in better condition.
That's a little sour grapes over there.
What?
Reserve 7.
Yeah.
So you're not even gonna move 7, you opened it for the public hearing, but you're not gonna move the vote.
Yes.
Well,
You
don't
may.
know- You don't know that. 8 may fail. If 8 fails, you gotta go back to 7, I would think.
Right.
Well, it's the first time I've ever seen it out of order, but I guess that's just administration.
First issue we've had of this nature. We're voting on something that the state isn't telling us what we're voting on. Motion, do I have a motion for adoption of ordinance?
Motion and second on the floor already, Mary, for 8?
I don't think so.
No.
I thought
Oh, wait, no. Notaro,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Notaro moved 8 and Smith seconded.
To read it by title. For the,
Right.
for the open to the public.
No. That was after the public hearing was closed. 8:48, Tom Palestina closed the public hearing on ordinance 8. 8:49, Notaro moves 8. 8:49 and 34 seconds, Smith seconded. 8:50, Kanisi, the title's already been read, and I reiterated the particulars.
Council President, just to have belt and suspenders, why don't you call for a new motion, a new second on whatever ordinance you want to proceed with?
Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 8?
I'll make the necessary motion to adopt ordinance 8, 2021.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Deweese,
Abstain.
Mrs. Madden,
No.
Mr. Notaro,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
No.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Utz,
No.
Mr. Palestina.
Yes.
It's a tie. Mayor Chow has to break the tie under our form of government.
My vote is yes.
So that is 4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative, 1 abstention. Motion carries for the adoption of ordinance 8 of 2021.
That leaves 7 unnecessary. We will, ordinance 9.
One second. I'd like to make the necessary motion to introduce ordinance 9-2021 to be read by title only.
Second.
I'm sorry, I'll be with you in just a moment. Ordinance 9 of 2021 is an ordinance providing for the purchase of real property within City of Northfield from Robert J. Schwenker and Susan E. Schwenker. This is the first reading. There will be no public input. The ordinance will be published in full in the Press of Atlantic City on August 14th. It's presently posted in full in the lobby of City Hall as well as on the municipal website. Between now and the time of the public hearing, anybody who wants a copy of the ordinance can obtain one free of charge in my office. On August 31st, there will be a second reading, a public hearing, and the matter will be considered for final consideration.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Mrs. Madden? Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Perry? Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Utz?
Yes.
Mr. Palestina?
Yes.
Motion carries for the introduction of ordinance 9 of 2021.
Notices? Payment of bills.
Mr. President, can I?
The number is a misprint.
Yeah, it's 1,492,000.
Yeah,
You
Barbara.
got it? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion for the payment of bills in the amount of $1,492,698.43.
Second.
Roll call?
Any question?
Any questions? Okay, now roll call.
Mr. Deweese,
Yeah.
Mrs. Madden,
Yes.
Mr. Notaro,
Yes.
Mr. Perry, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Retz, Mr. Palestina.
Yes.
Motion carries for payment of bills.
Motion to adjourn, meeting notices now. Phew.
Next, city council meeting is August 31st, 6 PM, work session, regular session, meeting is Friday.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Like I said, we can.
There'll be another round. Maybe it'll come around, but it's like in the season.
It's not- Well, that's a boogeyman too. That everybody's gonna go away now because of 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, Barbara, we're right with you.
Why not?
Today that